إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. We praise Allah, we seek His help, we ask for His forgiveness. We declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides the one and only true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we declare that Muhammad is the last and final prophet and messenger sent for all people. Respected brothers and sisters, in the early 1970s, there was a psychologist by the name of George Silverman. And he was doing some experiments on doctors, right? And he noticed something interesting. He noticed that when doctors in the early 1970s, they were prescribing drugs or prescribing medicine to their patients, some of them would have a bad experience and they would say this medicine doesn't really work. And others did not want to prescribe this medicine that the pharmaceutical industry probably pushed on them to prescribe. So what he noticed was that doing these, groups and kind of focus groups, he realized that one or two doctors could influence the entire group of other doctors to actually use a medicine that they didn't want to use, to prescribe a medicine and start using it on their patients. And not only that, one or two doctors, just by talking about it, just by word of mouth, they could actually convince ex-skeptics who tried medicine and it didn't work, and they said, we're not going to ever prescribe this to our patients again. He realized that one or two people could convince an entire group of physicians to try again to use the same medicine on their patients. So he's a psychologist, and he invented this term called word of mouth marketing. Word of mouth means you speak to other people. You tell them about your experience. You buy a product and you start telling them this product is amazing and everything, and all of a sudden people say, oh, completely convinced they want to do it. So he invented this word of mouth marketing in the field of marketing. It became so popular that in 2008, a research firm called PQ Media, they estimated that companies spend $1.5 billion on word of mouth marketing every year. And the Journal of Advertising Research recently said that 75% of all consumer conversations about different brands that you buy, they happen face-to-face. 75%. 15% happen over the phone, and only 10% happen online. Most people would think it must be online. Actually, the majority of brands that we have, you buy a purse and it's got a brand name, Armani or whatever it may be. You buy some car and you're talking about the brand. It's word of mouth. Word of mouth plays a very significant role. In fact, just yesterday, 170,000 Twitter accounts were shut down because Twitter realized that these were most likely tied to the Chinese government, who was trying to push some narratives about COVID-19, push narratives about Hong Kong protests and all of that. Why are they doing that? Because they realize the power of an individual to influence other people. So why is this relevant to Islam? It's because we interact with people on a daily basis. Even though our interaction has become limited due to our situation, we interact with people on a regular basis. And when you are anywhere, when you go to a wedding party, you go to a walima, when you are in your lunchroom at work with your fellow employees, when you have recess time at school, you are interacting with people and you might get into a discussion with them. And when you get into a discussion with somebody, you're either going to be persuading them about some viewpoint or you're going to be persuaded by them. There's really not much of a third option. You're either persuading someone or you're being persuaded. And Islam is concerned about spreading good ideas. And it's concerned about eliminating bad ideas and bad advice and bad encouragement. So Islam came and said this natural social force of influencing other people, word of mouth marketing, as you can call it in the field, it needs to be used for the betterment of society. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, says, let there be a community among you, among the Muslims, that calls towards the good. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and insists or encourages other people to do that which is right, to do that which is good. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and desists or discourages or forbids people from doing something that is wrong. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, and those will be the successful people. This concept of Amr bil Ma'ruf, this is probably good to remember these Arabic terms. Amr bil Ma'ruf means you're telling somebody else, you know what, you should really do this. It's going to be good for you. You're encouraging someone to do good, or you're telling them, no, you need to do this. This is really important for you. That's Amr bil Ma'ruf. Nahi anil munkar means you're stopping somebody. No, this is wrong. Don't do this. Please, this is going to be bad for you. Don't do this. This feature, this function in society is extremely important, and we should never undermine it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another verse, just a few verses later, He says, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, says, you are the best community that has ever been raised up for people. Why? تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You encourage other people or insist upon the good, and you discourage or forbid people from doing that which is bad, and you believe in Allah. This makes us the best community, potentially, if we're doing our job, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And what's more interesting is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this as a characteristic of believers. So in Surah At-Tawbah, I believe, He says, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ, that the believers, male and female, Allah mentioned them separately, says they are supporters of one another. So how can Muslim believers support one another? يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. They will encourage one another to do good, and they will discourage one another from evil or from something that is bad. So when we look at it from this perspective, think about it this way. We're Muslims, we're believers, and we make mistakes. All human beings make mistakes. And there's a difference between the mistakes and sins that people commit. Some people will make a mistake and they will commit a sin out of negligence, out of desire. They just got caught up in the moment, they did something wrong. But a believer will never be one that advocates for sin publicly, that goes around telling people, you know what, you should do this bad thing. And see this good thing, you should stay away from this good thing. That's never the characteristic of a believer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying believers will make mistakes, but they will not be people who are propagating, people who are encouraging the bad and discouraging people from doing good. And the reality is, we complain about our ummah sometimes. We look at the Muslim ummah, almost 2 billion Muslims across the world. And people say, look what's going on. You know, you've heard these criticisms. There's corruption, and there's cheating, and there's lying, and there's bad behavior, and some people, they should smile more. And we're concerned about our Muslim ummah. But this idea of encouraging good and discouraging bad, this concept is a built-in self-correcting mechanism that Allah has placed within the ummah, if you apply it. It's like if you look at autopilot on an airplane, autopilot in a car, or like adaptive cruise control, right? What do? You set a limit. So I want my car to go 65 miles an hour, right? And sometimes it's going to go slower. Sometimes it's going to slow down because there's a car in front of you that slows down. And when the car speeds up, what's going to happen? It's going to go back to the baseline standard that you had set for it. If you have autopilot, your car is getting out of the lane, it'll come back into the lane, it'll correct itself. This is exactly what this concept of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar is. When Muslims do their duty and they do their job and they encourage other people to do good, and they stop people from doing something bad, the ummah begins to automatically correct itself and go back to the baseline standard that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it to be at. So on an individual level, don't be silent. Don't just keep things to yourself and say, this is not my business. It doesn't concern me. Somebody is gossiping in front of you, talking about someone else. You stop them and say something. So, we shouldn't gossip about people. You find somebody wasting time and they have so much potential. You tell them, you know what? You have so much time. You have so much potential. You're a smart person. You're a hardworking person. Come volunteer for the masjid. Come, go do some project. Go do something that's going to be, beneficial for you. You see somebody being stingy. Allah has blessed them with so much money. Don't just sit there and say, the person is there. No, tell them, you should spend your money in the path of Allah. Allah has given you so much. Give them some encouragement. Tell them to do something. Don't just stay silent and stay quiet. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, paraphrasing in a hadith, he said that whenever you see something wrong, you should fix it. And he explained the details. And in another hadith, he said, if you encourage somebody else to do good, you get the reward like the person who did it. You can't beat that. You're just encouraging someone and you're getting a similar reward to the person who is doing that deed. So what should we do? We should focus on our own sphere of influence. We have a sphere of influence. Your family, then your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. Basically, anyone who cares about what you have to say, that's your sphere of influence. That's where the focus should be. And if everyone does that, if everyone with wisdom and in the right way and in a gentle manner with good akhlaq, they actually engage in this process, then what are we going to find? We're going to find the entire community, the entire ummah changing. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to practice this in our lives and help us to uplift the entire community. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'ilil muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Continuing on the topic. Can you imagine what it would look like? What would the Muslim community look like if Muslims were doing this responsibility? If they were doing it, things would change completely. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another verse the opposite of this. What does he say? He says, Al-munafiquna wal-munafiqatu ba'duhum min ba'd. He says that the hypocrites, men and women both, they're all the same. They're the same across the board. يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمُنْكَرِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ. What do? They encourage other people to do evil, to do bad. And they discourage people from doing that which is good. They're doing the exact opposite. And Allah is describing that. And then he talks about how bad that is. The reality is, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to say it very plainly, is that many Muslims end up doing the opposite. Several Muslims end up engaging in this type of behavior. There's a Muslim sister in the community. She's young, teenager. She joins her Muslim Student Association. She wants to start wearing hijab. Her parents, her entire extended family blast her. And they start saying, you know what? What do you think you're doing? When did you become so pious? They start blasting. A brother wants to grow out his beard. You look like an extremist. What are you doing? Discouraging people from doing something that is good, that's part of Islam. You find people going and encouraging others to invest in unlawful companies or engage in unlawful transactions. They say, now's the time to short the stock market. And shorting a stock market is not allowed in Islam for various reasons. They say, but now's the time to make some money. I mean, the market recently recovered a few days ago. Maybe not the best time to short anyways. But what's happening? You're encouraging people to do something that's bad. And when they want to do something good, you stop them from it. This can't be the time. This is not the way that it should be. People even pressure to engage in innovations, engage in bid'ah. Say, Islam is not supposed to be boring. Why can't we have such and such party or whatever it may be? We need to modify our train of thinking. So committing a sin, doing something wrong out of weakness, that's one thing. We ask Allah for forgiveness. Advocating and encouraging other people to do something wrong, that's a whole nother thing. So this trend that we have in our society, it's my life, it's my choice, right? Live and let live. Don't interfere. People even misquote the verse. They say, Lakum dinukum waliya din. To you, your religion. To me, mine. We're not going to talk about anything. I'm not going to even encourage you to do anything. I'm not going to discourage you from doing anything bad. Your life, my life, we're separate. This mentality is wrong. That's not what the verse meant. And this mentality actually needs to be adjusted to be in line with the principles of Islam. If you want to change the world, we need to encourage the good and we need to discourage the bad. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. Oh Allah, forgive us for our sins and our mistakes. Oh Allah, help remove the pandemic that we're going through right now. Oh Allah, help all those people who are going through financial difficulties, make it easy for them. Those people who are going through difficulties in their families and with others, oh Allah, make it easy for them. Oh Allah, help all those people who are going through corruption, those who are going through oppression, oh Allah, make it easy for them and ease their burden. Oh Allah, help us to live as Muslims and only take away our lives when we're ready to die in a state of true faith. آمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.